Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to our webinar today. This is the Bringing High Definition CX into Focus. Today we are here with Micah Solomon, David Campbell, and Claire Dorian, and Micah will be giving you an introduction to them very shortly. My name is Allie Fisher. I'm the Marketing Operations Manager here at SugarCRM, and I'll be your host and technical support for the webinar. So before we get started, got a little bit of housekeeping. So Micah, if you can give us our housekeeping slide. Perfect. As you've noticed, everybody is on mute. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in your questions box at any time during the presentation. If it is a technical question, maybe you've lost sound or someone's mic has suddenly turned them into a robot, just let me know. If it is something that looks like it's just your issue, I will do my best to handle it for you, give you some technical support. If it looks like something that's on our end, hang in there and we'll see if we can fix that. However, if you have a question for the presenters about the presentation, again, ask at any time. We do have a Q&A session at the end, but of course we love seeing those questions coming in. Finally, the big question that everybody asks, we are recording the webinar and we'll be sending out an email with the recording. I always say 2 to 3 business days. I'm aiming for Friday, but we'll let you know. Keep your eyes on that. So with that, I will hand it over. Let's kick us off, Micah.
If we haven't met before, I'm Micah Solomon. I will be your host. Some of you, thank you so much, joined us on our most recent webinar, which is on 5 principles for building a strong customer connection. So welcome back or welcome for the first time. Today, I am joined by Claire Dorian. She is the CMO of Sugar. And David Campbell, who's the VP of Product Marketing. Claire has the most fantastic brogue and has lots to say. And if you're lucky, maybe she'll say rubbish. She charges me $5 every time I get her to say that, but maybe she'll do it for you for free. David Campbell is one of the best explainers I know. He doesn't make less technical people feel like idiots, which is a very nice thing in an explainer. He's, again, the VP of Product Marketing. Together, they're going to talk about something they are really passionate about: the power of fidelity and focus when it comes to the customer experience. Understanding your customers down to the very last proverbial pixel in order to provide the best experience and service possible. I'm going to start with the world's best explainer, David, to answer the question on everyone's mind. What is HDCX all about?
HDCX, it's all about solving the problems that have historically plagued CRM and customer experience systems. CRM has been around for almost 30 years, yet for most companies, the customer view that they're enjoying today is decidedly low resolution. The information they have on companies is typically incomplete, it's out of date, or in many cases, it's simply wrong, right? And worst of all, it's myopically focused on current state. So companies have a good idea of the current status of things, but they don't have as good of an idea as how their customers got to that current state. And even worse, they have no idea at all about what their future state of those customers is likely to be given current course and speed. So we recognized this situation several years ago, actually. And over the years, we've created multiple very unique architectural features in our products to try to address many of these features. So HDCX is really a concept for helping people understand the possibilities when you have those features, right? So HD was this perfect analogy because it's all really about fidelity. The features we've made massively increase the fidelity of a company's understanding of its customers. The difference that you see between a standard definition television and a high definition television is completely analogous to the difference between a traditional CRM and the CX platform that we've built. It's like the fog has been lifted and you're seeing your customers clearly for the very first time. And so in that respect, HDCX is an ideal. It's a vision for near perfect customer understanding. And it's really built on these 5 things that we've been working on for the past several years. The first one is the notion of time aware. as I said before, customer experience systems tend to be focused on what's going on right now. Our system is built instead to capture every change event throughout the entire journey for every customer. And with that information, you can do some really, really powerful things. The second aspect is around automation, and in particular, the automation around data management. So most systems were designed 20 years ago when the value proposition for a CRM system was really around empowering managers to understand where their employees are at and where their customers are at. So it required the actual employees who dealt with those customers to enter a whole lot of data into the system, right? What we've tried to do, because that burden has gotten so large, is we're always constantly looking at ways to automate the capture of data so that end users don't have to deal with it, as well as the processing of that data and then presenting that data back to users in context with what they're doing at any given time. And so that way, we're changing the value equation of the system so that you're actually getting more out of the system than you're putting in. The third aspect is around data enriched AI. So lots of companies are using AI, which is brilliant. We love that. What we've done to go above and beyond that, however, is to take data that's external from your company, about companies, about people, about markets, and adding that to the data set that you're maintaining within your customer experience systems to give you a much, much broader view of your customers than would be possible using only your data alone. And that allows that AI analysis to be much deeper, much richer, and to provide insights that just wouldn't be possible otherwise. The fourth aspect is what we call full journey. So that's the notion of across the entire customer journey to provide a set of solutions that are well integrated and that share that data across all of those departments so that there's a shared understanding, a shared sense of purpose where it comes to engaging with customers. And then the last thing is really around integrating this incredibly valuable data and these processes with the rest of the company. So extending the value of customer experience into non-customer facing processes and systems.
So you dug pretty deeply into it, but can you dig a little more into why this makes a difference, both mostly as far as business benefits? Do you mind doing that, David?
Not at all. So, as I say, HDCX is all about fidelity. It's about going from this really fuzzy, fragmented understanding of your customers to one with crystal clear clarity. So, if you think about what that brings to a company, it's really in two broad categories. One is increased performance. It allows you to increase revenues by making your marketing, your sales program far more effective because you understand your customers and your potential markets better. It's about decreasing costs because you're able to answer fundamental business questions that can improve your business with less effort and less time. And it's about reducing churn because the better you understand your customers, the more likely you are to be able to keep them happy and have them remain customers. So all those things are about increased performance. And then the second aspect, the second category, if you will, is around increasing predictability, right? So when you have this HDCX kind of view, you can forecast the future. You can remove opinions and hunches and make instead defensible data-backed decisions based on knowing the probable outcomes of whatever action that you're contemplating. You can also identify trends. So you can uncover hidden movement or tendencies with enough time to actually course correct or capitalize on opportunities. And then finally, you can expose and resolve issues early. And by doing all of those things together, you're increasing the predictability of your business as a whole, as well as the individual processes that make up all your customer-facing functions.
Thank you so much. Claire, Could you take us through some practical examples of non-rubbish HDCS? And sorry, I didn't really know how to get that in a positive context, but a lot of people joining us are responsible for sales, marketing, service functions at their companies. So some examples, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. And why don't we do exactly that, Micah? Why don't we think about this notion of high definition in the context of the customer life cycle? So let's start out with the world of marketing, something that's very close to both my heart and David's heart. How often are you guys out there asked to define and expand target segments to drive growth for your business? It could be driven by a product release. It could be driven by launch of a new value proposition. It could be a response to a new market trend. And if that ask has been anything like the experience that I've certainly had over the years, it's really difficult to deliver on. Why? Well, oftentimes you're digging into your own sort of CRM data that, let's face it, is probably incomplete, probably error-prone, might even be rubbish, Micah, just to put that word in there for you.
I'll send you your $5.
And, I don't think anybody would place a bet on drawing firm conclusions when you don't have the full picture, right? But more importantly, oftentimes you look to external sources, expensive external sources, to help supplement what you don't know, whether it's, reports, contact acquisition tools, whether it's industry analyst perspective from the likes of yourself, Micah, to help formulate opinions. That's a long, time-consuming process because you got to marry the two together, and that requires a human to do that. And so you know what happens when humans get involved, right?
Let me get the rubbish in, rubbish out.
I wasn't going to say rubbish because I certainly wouldn't judge my marketing peers in that way. But I guess what I'd say, well, there is a saying, right? How does it go? Rubbish in, rubbish out. But importantly, the thing that I think anybody here who has ever had that responsibility would know is it's time consuming and it's costly. So imagine your boss comes to you, Claire, we need you to identify an ideal customer profile, a growth segment that we can really help catapult our business in and around. What if you could automatically marry the insights that you have within your four business walls about your customers with information that lives outside of your business walls, whether it's business, market, or account information? Imagine then if you could apply artificial intelligence to that combination of information in order to predict the attributes of what makes a right fit customer for you right now, as well as a right fit customer for you potentially in the future. And what if those predictions were in your hands in days, not weeks? I think that's an improvement, right, on certainly experiences I've had. And I think to come back to, what David has spoken to, imagine how much more effective you could be as a marketing organization and how much more time you could spend, frankly, crafting the really creative campaigns to drive the right kind of engagement with that right kind of customer. But by God, imagine how popular you'd be with your sales partners by only handing them leads for accounts that they truly stand the best chance of success with. That, for us, is high definition in action. So you have the right account profile. Let's assume you've executed an amazing marketing campaign. It's now in the hands of the sales rep, right, to work their magic and close the deal. And I guess, the difference between success and failure for any given rep is meeting their quota and, quite frankly, figuring out, of the, hopefully if your marketing department's doing a good job, many hundreds, if not thousands of opportunities that they have that they are able to work. The key is having them focus on the opportunities where they stand the greatest chance of success and not wasting time, energy, and effort on those they don't. Well, again, and I'm sure, by the way, that's a scenario that all of us can identify with at some point in our career, getting that sales, that call from your sales counterpart. What is this opportunity that I'm working? I don't understand. The prospect is either not responsive, it's not somewhere I've sold before. Fast forward, imagine if your reps knew which opportunities to spend their time on based on science, not on instinct. Takes all the guesswork out, right? And imagine if the prioritization of where to focus their time should consider factors outside of what your very smart sales reps might know, whether it's how they compare with their sales reps peers, whether it's the level of engagement a customer has had with your marketing campaign, whether it's how well that opportunity that they're handling right now, how well that marries up to where you've actually achieved most success historically. And to take that one step further, what if that rep could be guided, Micah, to know what the right next steps are to take with that customer or potential customer? Surely knowing, having all of that information to hand and having it served up to you, that fidelity of information, knowing your customer and right opportunity down to, as you say, the last proverbial pixel, it contributes to a completely reimagined sales experience, and quite frankly, one that I would love to be a part of. I'd love to never, ever answer the phone, receive those emails from what's probably very well intended and sales outreach, but very misguided sales outreach. It's good for the reps. They make clubs. Their bank balances flourish. They work smarter. They know more. They guess less. It's good for the business because it goes without saying that if your reps are acting on the right kind of opportunity, they perform better. Your funnel, your pipeline becomes more predictable, you close more business, and you drive faster growth. And importantly, really importantly, it's good for your customers. Because if your customers are engaging with reps who know them, who understand them, who know what they need when they need it, they'd be way happier. And I would hazard a guess, in fact, there's plenty of research out there that, supports this, they'd be way stickier. I know I would. So David, do you want to sort of talk about maybe, we talked about marketing, we talked about the sales rep. Do you want to jump in and share a little bit about how this high definition vision would translate for somebody in a sales management position?
Oh, sure. So simplest example I can think of, for as long as Salesforce automation has been around, it's amazing how hard it is to get a really good, reliable forecast. And that's because forecasting has been an exclusively human-driven activity. So all the forecasts that reps bubble up to the top, they're based on personal biases and personalities and attitudes, right? They're highly influenced by the people who are actually giving those forecasts. So when you have a high fidelity view of your customers and historical performance, accurate forecasting is no longer this sort of cat herding exercise of trying to get everybody to give their best opinion and then to read between the lines and kind of interpret that opinion based on what you know about the people involved. It can instead be this sort of analytical, data-driven exercise that's aligned with historical performance, so that it's very defensible and it's very predictable. Now, once you're able to establish a historical pattern and culture around forecasting, AI can use that information to provide insights into the predictability of both your reps, your regions, your product lines, and understanding how predictable your sales are down to that very last pixel gives you incredible power, not just of being able to make your number predictably, but to figure out why you didn't when you don't, right? So that you can course correct and actually make improvements to your sales process over time.
Yeah. All right. So we've covered marketing, we've covered service, right, David? Right, Micah? And let's move around the wheel here and talk about service, that important post-sales experience, and one that I know, Micah, is very, very close to your heart. So retaining a customer and increasing, I guess, the loyalty that customer has with your brand. I know for me, it's very much determined by what happens post-sale. In fact, I would say I suffer amnesia from everything that happens in advance, and we start at square zero. And the bar, I guess, for businesses of any shape and size has been raised in terms of expectations that your customers have of you and your business, and the experience that you provide, all shaped, quite frankly, by the experience that we have as consumers ourselves. But I would contend, that there are too many businesses out there that operate using customer service KPIs that are trailing indicators. That's to say, that they are served up information and insight about challenges or issues after the fact. And what good's that? That puts you as an agent on the front line, as a manager of agents, as a business, as a brand, on the back foot. You're in firefight mode, you're in react mode, you're into a safe play potentially, depending on, the type of customer that you're dealing with. And so often, too often, we see that churn rates, resolution times, of cases, of service cases, that indicate an issue. By the time you actually get to your customer, they've probably either gone or they're considering alternatives. I do want to acknowledge though, Micah, and I know you talk about this in your book, customer loyalty is key, but predicting those who may not remain loyal with your brand, it's really, really hard. And because it was easy, we would have cracked it by now. And why is it not easy? Well, because if you think about the information that you need in order to identify those accounts, those individuals who are at risk, you likely need to marry information from a gazillion different sources. Your transactional information, your product information, your service information, whether it's case information, support desk information, your historic churn information, your engagement data set. And assembling that data is hard and actually might not even be enough for you to be able to identify the relevant traits of at-risk customers. We're fickle. We're human beings. And sometimes, no matter what your data tells us about us, we do something completely different. Sometimes age, financials, location-based information. Hey, world events, if this year has taught us anything, world events themselves can really affect the way that your customer, they can all have a bearing, I guess, on, the likelihood of your customer to churn. But you might not be collecting that age, financial, location-based, world event-based insight in your system. So what if you could, in terms of what if you could imagine a world where you could marry the customer information that you have from your back-end system, from your front-end customer service system, from your CRM, that marries product, transactional, all those information sources that I mentioned, and have that all in one place. What if you could then augment that with information, again, just like we talked about in the marketing scenario, outside your own four walls, from public sources? You could potentially uncover hidden traits, hidden segments of customers that are likely to churn. And you could be proactive, not reactive in terms of the way that you engage. And that saves you a sales play, which quite frankly is often time consuming and expensive. So to wrap this all up, Micah, I think for me, when I think about, grounding this vision that we have for a high definition experience, I think quite simply, good by instinct, good by guesswork, hello predictability. And quite frankly, what employee, what business, what customer, nay, what shareholder of your business doesn't like predictability as an end result?
So thank you so much for that. I want to continue with the last thing that you said, which was being proactive. I call this anticipatory customer service, and I feel that is the ultimate level of service, and it is a spectacular way to build customer loyalty. When the Ritz-Carlton was being created as a modern concept in the 1980s, they talked with some very smart linguists who helped them parse a bunch of advanced guest surveys and focus groups that they had done. A lot of their guests or potential guests were saying that they wanted the hotel to be like home. But this didn't really ring true to the people working there, because might partly be true, but in another large sense, you want to go somewhere new and somewhere that's not like home, or you might as well just, if you had the opportunity, stay home. So they looked a little farther into the language, and what they came up with as a model is the home where you're the kid. That's a little extreme, but bear with me here. Where you're the kid in a home where you have a caring parent or parents. So not all of us have experienced this, but this was the model that they came up with, and it's worked spectacularly for them. So what does that mean? It means that when you leave for school, you remember leaving for school, you are missed as you go away. When you come back, you are welcomed back. If you go to a Ritz-Carlton now and you come on your run, you're welcome back, Mr. Smith, and you're handed a bottle of water and probably a towel. The food in the refrigerator match your preferences. If you've been away for a longer than usual time, then they'll make even more of a fuss of you when you come back. So this is the model. Now, this model of anticipatory service, where the food or the sales offering are incredibly personalized to what you need, has traditionally been provided by an empathetic employee, a salesperson with their little black book, and now it can be fundamentally augmented by technology. And this is really powerful to have the technology as a partner. Some great brands, it feels like they are doing this in spectacularly seamless ways, and I think we would all like to be like them. When I was talking with Apple a couple days ago, when my iPhone, I know this doesn't happen very often, but when my iPhone actually broke, they knew a lot about me, and the combination of what they knew about me and the well-hired and well-trained, yes, very important, service representative was kind of a spectacular, a truly spectacular service experience, and ultimately led to another sales experience. So we don't do this just because it's nice to do. Nice to do, I think it generally does lead to future sales, but focused niceness, where you are really homing in on what matters to a particular customer, is very powerful. That might be a little high level, a little idealistic, which I confess I am idealistic, but it works for me. Nuts and bolts, though. David, what are the next things we can do to take on HDCX and bring it back home for us?
Sure, that's a great question. I think.
Thanks. I'm full of them,
first,
man.
I think first, HDCX really, like any large initiative, is more than just about the technology. It's about also the processes and the people, right? So first, a company needs to really shift its mindset, right? It needs to bring about a change in the way they think about the problem, and even a recognition of the problem in some cases. You really need to go and get executive alignment and get the buy-in that HDCX or CX initiatives in general are what's necessary to move your company forward. The second aspect is don't settle for the status quo. We've seen a lot of customers who kind of accept the fact that they can't get a very good forecast. Oh well. Mm-hmm. What your company is depending on that, and your ability to conquer those problems. That is the key to your competitiveness. That can be your unfair advantage. So companies really need to think about the problems and the questions that they have that really need to be answered, even if they're hard. And they need to not accept a situation where they can't answer those questions and make decisions on behalf of their company. And then the third point is really that all the customer-facing groups in a company, marketing, sales, customer service, they need to have a shared understanding. They need to share data. They need to have that high fidelity view so that they can make the best decision at the time when it needs to be made. And so we recommend companies to go and look for the products that are going to be able to do that, to provide that consolidated view. We obviously offer one. We'd be happy to talk with customers about our products, but more importantly, it's just recognizing that you need a consolidated view that truly spans all customer-facing functions. So that's the vision as we articulate it. We've architected our products to support that vision. Be happy to talk with anybody about that.
And if I can just add there, Micah, if I can just add, I do. And I think there's a lot of businesses out there that think CX is big and scary. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal, and it can often be an expensive endeavor. It doesn't have to be. And what we always talk to our customers about is, yes, think big, think end to end, but start small. And that's how you gain the groundswell and the alignment as well that David spoke about, is where you use your incremental successes on your path to your vision to help propel your business. It's amazing what happens. Success, how does the saying go? Success breeds success. So when you think big, but start small, and you break up, your journey to whatever your vision is for your business as it relates to customer experience, you can get there. It doesn't have to be a huge, big, expensive consulting project, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's a massive disappointment to all the consultants out there, but you're on it. It's very exciting. I want to invite you to join me for something, and you don't have to be a current Sugar customer. I did see some marketing that went out that said exclusive. Well, once you sign up, it's exclusive, but everyone is invited to this virtual experience on all things customer experience. It is October 7th. It features a closing keynote that will be provided by me. I am going to focus on some of the, let's see if I have the camera. Yes, look at that. Some of the issues in this book, by the way, some of us might think that this telephone is a little old-fashioned. I was worried about that a little bit. But I ran it by my local Gen Z expert, my, at that time, 15-year-old son. And I said, do you even know what this is? And he said, Sure, Dad. We've all seen those old movies. This apparently does represent, even for Gen Z, the texting and chat and all the other channels we use. So this is a metaphorical corded phone. You can get your own copy of this for free if you're lucky. If you feel lucky, kid, you're going to get one of these. It's 50 people who sign up and come to Sugar Connected on October 7th are going to get their own copy of the book. And I will tell you, if you don't feel lucky or you can't wait to see whether you're lucky or not, you can go today to ignoreyourcustomers.com, and I'll give you 3 free chapters just to, at least to tide you over. We are going to take some Q&A now. If you haven't heard enough of us talking, we are going to talk, and we are going to focus right in on the customer, which in this case is you.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions here. I'm going to start off with one that sounds good for Claire. The question is, Is it realistic for mid-sized companies to think about CX, much less HDCX?
That's a really great question. You know, I think oftentimes...
Wait. Allie, is it realistic for them to not think about it?
And Michael, you just stole my thunder. That's my crescendo right there. Because look, I think the reality is that oftentimes mid-sized businesses are caught between a rock and a hard place, right? Because on the one hand, they compete with the large enterprises who have the budget, the manpower, you know, the time to invest in large, transformational, cross-functional customer experience initiatives that they say benefits the customers. But I think the reality is that while mid-market companies may not have all of that, the manpower, the resource, the budget, etc., our expectations as consumers, last I checked, doesn't change based on the size of the company. You know, my judgment, the organizations that I value, you know, when I engage and interact with them, those experiences, those opinions are shaped and formed by my own experience as a consumer in my pizza shop, you know, that's pivoted to takeout since COVID round the corner. Much less, actually, for large enterprises. Yeah.
It's too early in the morning to say pizza.
Burrito
Our place doesn't open here.
Burrito truck? Does that work?
It's sad that I know this, but they don't open for an hour and 21 minutes. So.
Well, I mean, you know, I guess to try and get to the crux of the point that I'm trying to make, without food analogies, I promise. You know, the good news is that I actually fundamentally believe that customer experience is a battleground that mid-sized companies can win on. You know, oftentimes you are more nimble. You are not as constrained by politics, legacy systems, legacy processes that often your enterprise counterparts are. And the reality is, Micah, you know, and there are plenty of studies out there that I'm sure you and our audience today are well aware of, whether it's, you know, reports from Forrester, Adobe are pretty prolific, Deloitte as well, that show that actually doubling down on your customer experience and using it to drive differentiation against your competition, if you do that when times are tough, and let's face it, for the last 8-9 months, for many businesses out there, times have never been tougher. You exit from those challenging times on top. And if ever there was a lesson in why, regardless of business, you know, regardless of the size of the business, that you should prioritize CX, it's that. David, I don't know if there's anything else you'd add there.
No, I totally agree with everything you said. You know, mid-sized companies, if you want to use a different analogy, who would have ever guessed that every consumer in the world, no matter how sophisticated or not, would have AI devices in their hands that they use every day without even thinking about it. And that's exactly what you have in terms of your iPhone. This is technology that's not just for the wealthy. It's not just for the technically savvy. It's for everyone. You just have to figure out how to make it apply to your world.
Yep.
Okay, next we've got a series of questions that really seem to be aimed toward David. So you are going to be in the spotlight for a little bit. First question is there a Sugar solution that lets me achieve this high definition view on top of my different vendor solutions?
Well, I think it's really important, particularly in this space, because we're talking about sort of an entire ecosystem within a company, that solutions in this space have to be interoperable, right? So that's the way we've designed our system. It's very modular so that you can pick the products that make the most sense for your company at that time and be able to integrate them with the other products that exist, because no system goes into IT all by itself. It's going to have to be weaved into the fabric of IT. And so that's the way we've done it. So any of our solutions, whether they're focused on marketers or salespeople or customer service reps, they have the ability, in fact, a very robust ability to integrate both data as well as processes with systems and processes external to those organizations. So the answer really is all of our solutions really are appropriate for that.
Okay. Well, the next one, getting into a little more nitty gritty, and welcome back, Linda. Will your HDCX tell you which customers to fire or which prospects to avoid because they won't be an ideal customer?
Oh, Linda, you're tough.
I think that is like a really, really great question. If you think about it, Claire had given the example for a sales rep of that the difference between success and failure is often knowing what opportunities to prioritize above the others, the ones that stand the most chances of success. And the truth is, there are customers who stand you in better stands for success than others, right? And the HDCX can absolutely identify those, because those are just traits that can be identified and tracked and correlated just like any other. So the answer to that question is absolutely yes.
I'm going to shift the spotlight over to Micah. So I've read your book, and I'm curious about your opinion on how you see CX. Yeah, you're welcome. How do you see CX evolving in light of the pandemic?
Claire, I believe in marketing, so I'm just. So there is really more than one. Business situations are varying a lot in the pandemic. What I'm seeing is that volume of calls and other forms of inquiries, some businesses has gone up, some has gone down, some has pretty much been stable. But the emotional content of those inquiries has increased a lot. So one of my principles during the pandemic is to help, I'm not sure I'm exactly answering the question, but I'll get there, is to help even if you can't help. So Zappos hasn't been selling a lot of shoes. I checked recently what was on my feed, and don't worry, what shoes were on my feet, and they were the same pair of very comfortable New Balance walking shoes that I had bought from Zappos in, I believe, December. So they're not selling a lot of shoes. They're not selling a lot of apparel, which is something they also sell. So they have invited all people, whether customers or not, to contact them and ask them anything. And you try this. If I were going to get cheeky, I'd probably. Well, anyway, I can think of a lot of clever questions to ask them, but they mean this seriously, because they were finding that more and more of the calls they were getting had shoes as a pretext, but really were someone who wanted to talk to someone. And on tech-related calls, I've been hearing this as well, that a lot of the call is focusing on commiserating about what it means to work from home. So this is my principle for these times is help even if you can't help. And sometimes help outside of your wheelhouse. One of my consulting clients is a credit union that's called Chrome, and they are in Western Pennsylvania. It's kind of historical mining country, and the steel industry was big there. So they had an older customer who was not set up for the automated banking solutions that they offered. And they didn't succeed in setting him up over the phone either. And they couldn't get him to come in safely because there was so much flooding and bad weather in the region. So two of their associates at the bank, the credit union, went out to his house one day to get him set up. And they did manage to do that. It didn't take very long. And he said, I'm so glad that you did this, Chrome employees, because I really want to make sure that my retirement check gets into my account seamlessly. He probably didn't use the word seamlessly like we do, but without a problem this month. And so they picked up on this comment and they said, oh, Mr. Smith, that's great. Of course, it's important every month. Why particularly this month? And Mr. Smith said, well, I want to use it to get to Home Depot and buy a shop vac before they are all gone because I've suffered a bunch of flooding. And so these two very empathetic and well-trained, thank you very much, employees of Chrome Bank made this sweet excuse about how, I'm sorry, something's come up. We'd love to finish up this conversation, but could we have 45 minutes? So the gentleman said, sure, I'm retired. 45 minutes is fine. They zip over, well, it's bad weather out, so they maneuver carefully over to the nearest Home Depot. And in fact, there was only one shop vac left. They purchased it with their Chrome credit card, which they are empowered in this purpose-driven organization to use, assuming they use their best judgment. They use their best judgment. They buy a shop vac. They come back without too much fanfare. They start shop vacking up. It takes several shop vacs full of water before they're done. And then he says, oh, that's so amazing that you did that for us. And then they say, well, we also know that flooding tends to recur, so this shop vac is a gift from your local credit union. So this is far outside of what you would usually do for your customers, but they felt that this was what was called on. And in COVID, you will find more and more examples like this. Other than that, I think we're seeing obviously a trend towards using technology to, in some cases, replace and in other cases, augment the human touch. I will say that handshakes, I think, are going to be gone for a while, and I personally say good riddance. I work with five-star hotels, literally five-star hotels, certified by Forbes, and they have always been told to offer their hand in a handshake. However, they offer their hand in a way that is, I think, appropriate. It doesn't make you feel like you're being rude if you don't take it. Most other organizations that don't know the subtlety of doing that have been almost forcing a handshake on you in the past. And this includes doctors who have been trained in the patient experience, not by me, but by others. They are trained to give their patients a handshake. And this includes proctologists, I am sad to say. And thank you very much. As a patient, I have never wanted that big, hearty handshake, but now I think with COVID, we've moved beyond that. However, we haven't moved beyond smiles. You can. Let me see if I have one around here. I don't have one handy, but if I had a mask over my face, yes, Dr. Fauci, I am touching my face. I'm sorry, but I will wash my hands and face after this. But even with my mask on, can you tell if I'm smiling? I'm smiling, right? I like to think that's why I have so many crow's feet. So we have not moved beyond smiling. Also, smiling in our tone of voice, is very important. It's even more important this time. However, if a customer is telling you about something bad, don't smile. That's not the time to be like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Mr. Campbell. That it would be more emotionally appropriate to sound like you are. I'm really sorry to hear that. As far as moving forward, what are these changes are going to stay and what are going to go away? Well, I think it's going to depend on some of the customers. Some of the customers are forever going to like what's being called touch-free hospitality, which I think is one of the more ironic, oxymoronic terms that I've heard. But some customers, they're going to be about that forever. Others are going to be really happy when they can go back to more of a person-on-person interaction. So in those sense, I would say it is early time.
Very long response to an actually short question, but very good. We have one more question, and this looks like it's probably going to be a David question, although I have a feeling Claire will want to pick up on it too. Can you expand on the role that AI plays in this vision of CX?
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely I can expand on that. So we described, when we were describing HDCX, if you didn't pick up on it, it's very data intensive, right? I mean, we're talking about capturing the historical record, every change event for every customer since you first started engaging with them, and keeping that data up to date. But as everybody knows, all the data in the world doesn't do you any good if you can't process it, if you can't make sense of it. And the larger the volume of data that you have, the harder that is to do. And in fact, particularly the harder that is to do for any human being, right? Human beings are particularly great at taking small data sets and kind of filling them in and making intuitive leaps based on that. But machines are really good about taking large data sets and dealing with that and identifying trends and correlations. And AI is in particular great at taking that and then investigating different hypotheses, if you will, about why it's seeing what it's seeing without any kind of human intervention. So AI, we look at that as the technology that gives you the ability to actually use this data. The second dimension of that is we talked about capturing historical record of every customer, and that's a key part of the whole time aware vision that we have. But that's sort of one direction of time. That's going from right now into the past. The other direction of time is from now into the future, and that's where AI comes in. AI has the ability to do predictions, to look at that huge body of data, identify the trends, understand what data elements correspond to other ones, and make predictions about future state of things. That's incredibly powerful. Any business in the world would love to have a crystal ball. And AI gives you the ability to do that. It's a crystal ball that also includes the probability of the predictions actually coming true, which is very useful. So, Claire, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, but that's the way I see it.
I think all I would say is, for me, the AI component, it takes the guesswork and the instinct out, and it allows you to, in days, not weeks, you heard me say this earlier on in the webinar, make sense of the past, understand the present, and predict the future without the error-prone, time-consuming human intervention that you probably require or would require without AI.
David, I've got the question that's on everyone's mind. That is
Sure.
A beautiful control room behind you. Are you a musician or a recording engineer?
I try to be. In my part-time, I used to have ambitions to do that, but now I'm better in software, actually. So I'm where I need to be.
Okay, I did not know that. Can I add just a little bit to the AI question?
What?
All I want to say is that I think of AI as a triangular model. And so at one vertex is the customer, one vertex, how do you like my visual? One vertex is the agent and one vertex is the customer. And it's a mistake to think that the customer is going to exclusively work with AI or exclusively work with the person all the time.
Absolutely.
Customers sometimes want to be completely self-serve, or they want to be self-serve until they need something else. When they need something else, then they're working with a human, but the human is still probably going to be an AI-informed human if they're going to provide the best customer experience. Also, don't delude yourself. Even once you're talking to the customer person on person, the customer is still going to be using AI. They, at the very least, they're going to use the world's biggest AI, which we all have all for free been building over time, which is Google. Every time we tell Google that, yes, that looks like a picture of a bunny, or no, that doesn't look like a picture of a bunny, we are contributing our knowledge to the world's biggest AI. So don't think either or with AI. It is a very interdirectional, interactional. Claire can drive on the side of the road she feels comfortable driving on, and we can drive on the one we feel comfortable driving on, and it's all going to work out.
You obviously haven't seen me drive my car, Micah.
No, I'm hoping you're getting an AI-informed automotive experience sooner rather than later.
Exactly.
Okay, looks like that's all the questions we have that have come in. Anyone have any final thoughts that they want to share?
I do hope you'll all join us on October 7th. It's fantastic. I know that some virtual events are kind of like, inferior to the in-person experience. But this is a really good one. Not only don't you get a super spreader event, but you get a lot of content that has been thoughtfully put together, some live and some ahead of time. And I think it's going to be great. And the price is hard price to beat, free. So I hope to see you back on October 7th. And it's been really great to get the explanations from Dave and from Claire and Allie, and your fantastic, better than a flight attendant voice has been a pleasure. I also want to make sure to thank behind the scenes Caroline Hackert. Yes, that is her real last name, and she has been instrumental in putting these events that we've been enjoying here together, these webinars.
Well, thank you, and thank you very much for everybody who joined us. Again, we did record the webinar, and we'll be sending that out. Again, aiming for Friday, but we shall see. And with that, I'll give you 2 minutes back. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks, Micah. Bye.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, David. Thank you, Allie.
Thanks.
Thank you, Caroline.